Welcome to Austin Eras, the podcast that unravels Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and explores its potential future. Brought to you by Collective Advisors, Austin Eras takes you on a journey through the city's evolving landscape and rich history, offering insights into its dynamic past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the Austin nonprofit scene and someone whose personal story makes her leadership all the more powerful. Erica Blue is the CEO of Austin Sunshine Camps, a 100-year-old organization that provides free overnight camp experiences to Central Texas youth who wouldn't otherwise have access. Under her leadership, ASC has not only deepened its impact, it's also earned major recognition, including the 2024 Ethics in Business Award. But Erica's path to this kind of work didn't start in a boardroom. It started with lived experience. Raised in Alief, a neighborhood in Houston, she knows what it means to navigate financial hardship firsthand. That background fuels her passion for youth development, equity, and building real pathways to opportunity. She's held leadership roles at organizations like Marathon Kids, served as a national consultant on wellness initiatives, and remains deeply rooted in community-based leadership. Whether she's shaping strategic plans or helping a camper feel seen and supported, Erica leads with her heart, grit, and vision. She also has a daughter, a stepdaughter, and a wonderful husband, Ray. Erica, welcome to the Austin Eras podcast.
Thank you, Adam. I am a crier, and you're already going to make me cry. We haven't even started. Thank you.
I think it's wonderful that you're on the show. You actually reached out and said you'd been listening, so I think it's really great to have a listener on the podcast as well. You were on our list, so perfect kind of timing.
Yeah, you guys are doing great work. I've really enjoyed listening.
Thank you so much. I think that the work that you're doing at the Sunshine Camps is one of these things that really we want to highlight, we want to talk about, because a lot of people call the Austin Sunshine Camps the best kept secret in Austin. Why do you think it's the best kept secret in Austin?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a blessing and a curse. But yeah, so we've been in Austin for 96 years. I consider Austin Sunshine Camps one of the hidden gems in Austin for sure. For the first 80 years of our existence, it was pure volunteer led and run by the Young Men's Business League. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that has something to do with us being the best kept secret. If you weren't living or around that bubble of YMBL, then you may have not heard of Austin Sunshine Camps for the first 80 years of our existence. So we are trying to burst that bubble and make sure that the community knows we do exist, that there is an overnight camp in Zilker Park that's been there for 96 years and going strong. And I think the community needs to know what we're doing. Yeah, and
it's in Zilker Park. I think people forget, like, it's in the woods, it's back there, you drive around, and I mean, you're driving to Barton Springs, you think you're going to go there, and you take a left turn, and all of a sudden you're at the lodge.
Yeah, I've actually gotten in arguments with folks over the past 8 years about how it's not in Zilker Park. They're like, I run on Andrew Zilker Road. There's no lodge. But in fact, there is. If you look behind the tree line on Andrew Zilker Road, there is a 21,000 square foot lodge. That is our third iteration of overnight camp since 1928 when we were created. So that's our third building. But has been in the same exact spot since 1928.
That's amazing. Yeah. I remember the old building, but you said it's the third building?
It's the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go more into Sunshine Camps, but before we do, I want to talk about you and your personal story a little bit. So I think the first question I have for you around your past is what brought you to Austin and what made you stay in Austin?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Houston, like you said, in an area called Alief. And, you know, the great outdoors has always sort of been calling me. And when you grow up in Texas, the place to go be outside is Austin.
Yeah.
So when I first discovered the trees and the woods and the trails and the lakes and the rivers, I was like, holy cow, like this is just 2 hours from where I live. I have to get here. How do I get here? And so from the moment I discovered the city, which was later in my life, I was on a quest to live here, to be close enough to family, but to be in a place where I felt like I could really enjoy the outdoors that Texas has to offer.
So growing up, before you made it to Austin, being in Alief, it sounds like you really navigated real financial hardship in your life. How did those experiences shape the leader that you are today? Tell us a little bit more about kind of coming to that point and really also what summer camp is like and how that really touched on you as a child.
Yeah, so I grew up a lot like are campers. So in case you don't know, Austin Sunshine Camp serves kids who either qualify for free reduced lunch or are in foster care. I wasn't in foster care, but I definitely qualified for free reduced lunch. And in Alief, a lot of people qualified for free or reduced lunch. So it was just kind of the way that you lived. You didn't really notice anything was different about you until you got out into the real world. And so in college, it was a rude awakening for me that I grew up in Alief, which was very different than a lot of people grew up. And so once I became an adult and I started realizing that the likelihood of you being a successful adult has a lot to do with your parents and a lot to do with the way that you were raised. And I started just questioning a lot of things like, how did I get here? You know, I have a father who is addicted to drugs and alcohol and spent a lot of my childhood in and out of prison and jail. And why wasn't I there? So I started questioning all of these things. And the thing that I kept coming back to are the mentors and the strangers who held out a helping hand along the way and gave back to me, and all of the programs I was a part of, and all of the people who believed in me. And so that, being able to reflect on that really gave me a passion to do that for the world, to give back, to be in a place where I could make a living, but I could also feel like I was giving back. And thank you for all of the people that I personally didn't give to thank in the world. And so that gets me excited. If I have to have a job, which I do, then I want to do something that makes me feel like I'm making the world a better place and that I'm giving back to what was given to me.
So your lived perspective as a child turned into reality as an adult with that kind of coming together and thinking about how did I get here? And then you were able to turn that into something that you decided to be able to give back as well for your job.
Yeah, that sounds like I did it
like
really well.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of mess ups along the way. I went into for-profit world, I went into education, and all of those were just not a good fit. And so in that soul searching, kind of finally found what I'll call my work home in the nonprofit space in Austin.
So tell me about the story of you going to camp as a teenager. What was that like, and how did that have an impact on your life going forward?
Yeah, I actually got to go to an overnight camp in between 6th and 7th grade, so I was 12.
Okay.
Gosh, it's really hard to put into words. I've tried to do it a lot in my job at Austin Sunshine Camps, but you know, when you're growing up in such a bubble and your life is so insular, you only know what you know. You don't know anything else. And that sounds really simple, but the details of it are so everywhere and all-consuming. So I didn't know people could look differently than what I was used to. I didn't know there was food that was different than what I was used to. I didn't know that there were cities that were different than where I was growing up. So it's just oblivious to the unknown. Mm-hmm. And that week at camp really blew my worldview apart. I realized that there was so much out there that I didn't know was out there. And it fueled this hunger in me to go figure out what it all was. What else was out there? Where did I fit in? Who was I? It just made me very curious. And so when I first came to my first interview at Austin Sunshine Camps and realized that's what this organization does, is give kids like me the opportunity like the one that I was given. That was,
that's incredible.
Game over.
That's incredible. It makes you want to have that job and keep it as long as you can because of the impact that you get to have with those people.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's go back to the early days of your career, whether at Marathon Kids or before. Was there a moment that made you feel, hey, I'm meant to work with kids. I'm meant to work with youth and help impact their lives?
Yeah, my first nonprofit experience was at College Forward. And I worked on the ground with low-income, first-generation high school students who wanted to go to college, and then our organization also helped them persist through college. And so getting to sit down with families that reminded me so much of my family or have been through hardship like I could have never imagined, and trying to give them what I feel like I was able to give to my family being the first person to go to college was so rewarding and life-changing that there was no way that I was not going to be in that space forever.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those families who meant so much to me in that time and who I got to see firsthand as, this kid watching their whole life change and seeing and hearing the stories about what parents went through to give their kids a better life in the United States or, other just very touching stories that were so moving and so motivating. It's hard to walk away from that experience. and not work with those kids and families.
How do you stay engaged during all of this? Because it's like our company, we might go volunteer at Community First or go do something and we feel good in that moment and it's awesome and we love it. But how do you stay so engaged to connect the mission in your life and your work all the time and not just feel like it's routine? Because I feel like there's such an impact you have every day, and I'm sure it's easy to lose sight of maybe the big picture sometimes.
Well, we were talking before this started about people, and they all have a story. And every single person has a unique story that to me is so beautiful and so interesting. And I want to learn more about it and dig deeper. And so every person that I get to meet in this role, whether it be a kid or their parent or a donor or a volunteer, they're all coming together to do something really awesome in the world. And surrounded by news that is not awesome. Yeah. It's great and refreshing to be reminded that there are good things happening in the world all the time. So it doesn't feel routine. Sure, certainly sometimes it's just a job, quote unquote, right? And that can get old. Not all of the parts of my job are awesome and fulfilling, but the big picture is easy to see when you meet those folks and their stories every day.
One of the things I think that's important for Austin leaders is mentorship. I have a question around this. Was there someone early in your journey who helped you see your own potential in a new light that really maybe helped push you even further and deeper into that path toward Austin Sunshine Camps?
There were a lot of people, so I can't name them all. And I can think of many faces, the Rolodex of people who believed in me. I think the way that I grew up, there weren't many people who just believed in you, meaning like, there wasn't this culture of be the best you can be, go off and do great things. It was, nobody went to college. It wasn't really talked about where I grew up. It was just, we're all just here. We're going to stay here. We're going to be here. We're going to have families and marry each other. And to me, that just, I don't know, something felt missing all the time. So along the way, there were always people who looked at me or identified me, whether that be on the sports field, which was really impactful in my life, or in some kind of work that said, man, you can do better, or wow, that's really great, you should do more of that. And I fed off of that a lot. Just, well, I can do that. Let me go out and see, let me go out and find out more and see what this is all about. So there are a lot of folks. I'll mention one person who was my old boss at Marathon Kids. And she was just a spitfire, hell on wheels lady who just taught me a lot about being a leader and what it meant to both care for people, but also, carve a path that may not be easy to carve. And so when this job came open and she had already left Marathon Kids, she really encouraged me to apply for this job. So I'll give her some credit where credit is due.
That's amazing. So let's talk about when you got to Austin. What year was that?
So the second time and the time that stuck, I've been here since 2006, but I had a small stint in Austin before that.
So what changed from your time in that first stint, second stint to today, and how have you changed with it? What's Austin kind of felt like for you?
Austin feels like home, and of course, it is a rapidly growing place that is ever evolving and changing.
Always.
Some people, it makes them happy. Some people, it makes them really angry. But I feel like it's a wonderful place that has really, for lack of a better word, sort of cradled me throughout the last 20 years in all of my phases of life. I felt like there's always a place that you can land in Austin, and you can land safely. You can land around people who really care, who are authentic and genuine and willing to help you kind of get to where you need to be. I can't imagine living anywhere else. It's been wonderful to see my kids grow up as Austinites, which is something I always dreamt of being. So it's been really cool to see them reap the benefits of what I think Austin has to give.
I love that. Tell me about the nonprofit world a little bit, because the nonprofit world gets discussed in Austin, and I always hear there's too many nonprofits here. There's so many, and we got to consolidate, and there's so many problems. You obviously are a CEO at a nonprofit. How has it changed from when you first got into that and now where you're in that leadership role? How do you envision kind of the nonprofit world and its path forward in Austin?
Yeah. Well, I did listen to Chelsea on your podcast. She's a powerhouse. And so, as she said, there are many of us, 6,000 to 7,000 nonprofits in Austin,
That's
which
crazy.
The last time I was in one of the trainings about nonprofits, it said we had the most nonprofits per capita in the United States. I don't know that that's still true, but I would guess that probably we're up there if it's not number one. What I will say, though, is that if you can go into it without a scarcity mindset and without this worry that there's not enough to go around and we're all clawing for the same dollars,
Sure.
then you realize it's one of the most generous, authentic, team-oriented spaces. I mean, I have other nonprofit CEO leaders who are on speed dial on my phone. I'm part of several groups where we all help each other thrive. And so if you're seeking some, companionship or leadership cohorts, they're everywhere in this town, which makes it really amazing and an opportunity to be kind of the best version that you can be. And it's exciting to me to think that we can kind of lead the nation in what nonprofit community can look like and how we can help each other. And again, in my opinion, it's about not going in with a scarcity mindset and knowing that there is enough to go around. We just have to get creative and innovative in ways to find it and build sustainable sources of revenue and other things for each of our unique missions.
Well, let's talk about your unique mission. Let's take us to the present. So we've talked a little bit about the past. Let's go to the present. What are you building, leading, or fighting for right now? When you think about the Sunshine Camps and what you're doing, where is your immediate focus?
Gosh, this question is so hard to answer because it's so ever evolving with the changing climate at all times. Mm-hmm. So if you're not familiar with overnight camp, let me ask you, did you go to overnight camp?
As a Boy Scout, yes.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. So, overnight camp is this incredibly unique environment that is not like home, that is not like school, that is not like your extracurricular activities. So for most of the time, you're outside. Most of the time, you're spending long periods of time at ASC. It's 10 days and 9 nights with strangers you've never met who are typically very different than you. You're focused on activities that you probably have never done, like zip lining or ropes course or hiking, or for a lot of our campers, they didn't even know there was a river in Austin. So it's the first time that they get to be a part of the river. So it just creates this really unique environment that in today's day and age does so much stuff. It combats mental health issues. It combats loneliness. It creates opportunities for kids to learn to value people who are different than them. It creates opportunities for kids to put their screens down.
Oh, yeah.
And to be outside, which we don't do a lot of anymore. So it's doing a whole lot. It's an impossible question to answer. But right now, what I'm trying to do with that mission that we have and providing that opportunity for free for people who can't afford it is to do that for more people. So there are 40,000 kids in Central Texas that qualify for Austin Sunshine Camps, and I have room for 500 of them. And there's almost nowhere else for them to go to have this really unique overnight camp experience.
So 1 in 80 kids that could go to camp
I trust
is
your
able
math,
to go.
Adam.
Yeah, I did it. 500 out of 40,000. So that means that there's 79 of those 80 kids that do not get to have that experience.
Yeah.
And they likely won't be able to because they don't have the funds to be able to do it.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit more about how you've gone about raising money. From my perspective, I joined the Young Men's Business League in 2008 and raised money, I think, the spring of 2009. And I remember the first time I went to a school and I picked up the kids and the parents were there. They're like, "Are you sure? Like, do you want to go?" And there was a lot of this kind of like hiding behind mom and dad, and there was a lot of shyness. And I could sense the anxiety from the child that was about to come to this place, and from the parents and or the grandparents or whoever was dropping off the kid. And I had a few kids in my campers in my car, and we were driving just a short drive from East Austin over to Zilker Park. And I had the kids not realize, like you said, that there was even a lake/river that crosses through downtown Austin, and hadn't even seen some of the high rises. It blew my mind. And you talk about perspective and only knowing what's inside your bubble. It's amazing when you see someone else's bubble get popped too, in a way that really broadens their life. So going back to the original question, which is a long run-on story, was back then we raised the money as members of the Young Men's Business League for the campers, and I think that still happens, but you've kind of changed some of the fundraising model of how the Sunshine Camps work too.
Yeah, in the nonprofit space, you're always trying to have diversified sources of revenue so that if one falls down, you don't fall down with it, right? And so that's something that I've been focused on at Austin Sunshine Camps is diversifying our sources of revenue. And so we have money coming in from every direction now, which is really exciting. But yeah, we get grants. Usually for overnight camp, it's usually small family foundations that fund Austin Sunshine Camps, corporate sponsorships, and that can look like all kinds of things, but partnering with companies and doing, private-public partnerships that are win-win-wins is what I like to say. Individual giving and YMBL and their peer-to-peer fundraising campaign is still a part of that individual giving, but we also have something now called the Keeper Program, which we can talk about later. Those are our biggest sources of revenue, but also in 2015, when our newest camp building was built in Zilker Park, we were able to start renting that space out as a source of earned revenue. So we have now about a $250,000 a year earned revenue stream, which is really awesome.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so that's really what we've been trying to do as far as funding goes. But right now we have about a $2 million operating budget. Okay. And like I said, bring in funds from all the major sources that a nonprofit will bring in funds through.
And you have how many different camp locations?
We have 2 camp locations right now.
Okay.
One in Zilker Park. That's where we serve 8 to 11-year-olds. And then we have another camp location in Marble Falls on the ever-dwindling Lake Travis.
Sorry.
Which is where we serve 12 to 15-year-olds.
So no water sports at all at this point?
There's no water sports right now. It's so depressing. I was just out there last week, and it is far from being able to be swam in.
I know that one thing that makes Sunshine Camps unique is that you have campers that are coming from below poverty line homes, experiencing camp for a few years, potentially, and then they can become counselors in training and become full-on counselors at the camps?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. We kind of refer to it internally as our camper to community leader pipeline, but the idea is that you'll start at Sunshine Camps when you're 8, and you can go all the way until you're 15, and we have a focus on retention, so we're trying to bring kids year after year. It creates the biggest impact on their lives if we're able to do that. And then when they are 16 and 17, they can become a counselor in training. So we employ them, we train them, we really teach them what it takes to put the camp on that they just enjoyed as a child.
Okay, I like it.
And then by law, you have to be 18 to be a counselor. And so hopefully when they turn 18, they want to become a counselor. And for us, that's really important because the overnight camping world does not look like the kids that we serve. And so getting counselors to be in front of our kids who have been in their shoes, who look like them, has been a real challenge. So our CIT program kind of creates a workforce pipeline, if you will, of folks who have been in the same shoes and look like our campers.
10 days doesn't feel like a long time, but I think it's a real long time when you leave home for the first time. Mm-hmm. But it's not only the 10 days they experience, but also I know that there's other things that go on throughout the year. Some of the campers are involved in like mentorship and studying, and there's a lot of things that go on. Can you talk a little bit more about what it's kind of like to join the Sunshine Camps alumni, of sorts, once you're in that group, and some of the other things that happen as kids get older?
Yeah, so for us right now, what we do year-round is really focus on our summer campers' families and our relationship building with those families, because we want to be sure that whatever conflict resolution or whatever we're teaching at camp is also trickling down into the home, and the whole family unit understands it. So we spend a lot of time during the school year focusing on the families. But afterwards, if you're older, you can also be eligible for an Austin Sunshine Camps Young Men's Business League scholarship to post-secondary school that alumni from YMBL have created, and that our campers are the only ones that have access to those. And hopefully you're part of our family programming that happens by being employed through us, by us, so that you can learn what camp is all about, and you can do activities with families throughout the year and be a part of sort of that greater community.
So digging a little bit deeper on this theme, which is, what's something about Austin Sunshine Camp's work that you wish more Austinites understood that you're doing out there?
The importance of giving kids the opportunity to just be a kid. How that translates into better mental health, stronger community, deeper appreciation for the place that you live and hopefully will stay and contribute to when you're older. The ability to overcome challenges in a safe environment so that you're more resilient and able to overcome challenges in real life. A lot of times I think when I talk about overnight camp, people just think it's fun, and it is, and we're just splashing around in our swimsuits, and that is part of it.
Sure.
But there are so many other soft skills that kids gain that I think help them be better citizens, better adults, more confident, more resilient. And in today's day and age, I think that those things are probably more important than ever.
So if you want to build a better community, if you want to build a better Austin Sunshine Camps is a great place to give and a great place to get more kids to go. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I agree.
We're here with Erica Blue, the CEO of the Austin Sunshine Camps. We're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Calling all Austin business professionals and community leaders. Revitalize your after-work plans, and let's kick off a new tradition with the Austin Social Circuit. Join us for an evening of networking, great food and drinks, and even better company. Expand your circle, enjoy a laid-back vibe, and connect with like-minded Austinites. It's all happening the first Thursday of each month, with locations alternating between North and South Austin to keep things exciting. This initiative is powered by Collective Advisors. Find out the location of our next gathering and learn more by following Collective Advisors on Instagram and LinkedIn. Bring a friend, share the fun, and strengthen our Central Texas community. See you there, Austin.
And we're back with the Austin Eras podcast. My name is Adam Flagg. I'm the host, and I'm joined by Erica Blue, the CEO of the Austin Sunshine Camps. And we're talking about her job. And what it's like to kind of be fulfilled in that role. She's told us a lot about the Sunshine Camp so far. I really want to know a little bit more about your job, which is, what does a day in the life look like for you as CEO of the Austin Sunshine Camps? What do you do?
Every single day is so different, which is something I really love about it. So I'm managing our team and making sure that our programs department has the tools and resources they need to be successful, that our development or fundraising department has the same, that our operations and our facilities departments have the same. So sort of flying over the top of all of those departments and making sure that I'm giving them what they need to be successful, managing that, quality control and meeting our outcomes that we've set forth for ourselves. I'm also out in the community trying to make sure that people know about Austin Sunshine Camps, what we're doing and why it's important. So talking to anybody who will listen to me talk about Austin Sunshine Camps, building relationships. This work in the nonprofit space is really about relationships. It's about making sure that, in my opinion, you're having genuine, authentic relationships, and you're trying to find those people out in the community who are really interested in what you're doing, and you just have to talk to and get to know a lot of people to find the ones that it's a right fit for them in their life, and it's a right fit for you and what you need with your organization. So just doing a lot of relationship building as well. Since
we're talking about that right now, what's the best way for someone listening to find you and find the Austin Sunshine Camps?
Probably on our website. It's the first place to start, so sunshinecamps.org. We have anywhere from 500 to 700 volunteers come through Sunshine Camps a year. So volunteering is a great way to get involved and see what we're all about.
I think I've heard you say before that this kind of camp experience provided for campers at a no cost is pretty much non-existent. Is that right?
It's pretty much non-existent. It's not to say that there's not a few of us out in the country, but there aren't many. So when I say that, what I'm really talking about, Adam, is accredited overnight camps. So we are accredited by the American Camp Association, which means we adhere to a little over 200 standards to make sure that we have safety top of line, that we're providing high quality programming, et cetera. And so accredited camps who serve kids that we serve for free is very, very rare.
And I think some magazine rated you as one of the top 500 camps in America. Is that right?
Yeah, Newsweek.
Newsweek.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty incredible because you think about the fact that you're doing this on a budget. How much does it cost to send a kid to camp? What does it cost to do that?
It costs us about $1,500 to send a kid to 10 days and 9 nights of camp. And on average in the country, it costs about $4,500 to send your kid to a 10-day, 9-night camp.
Wow. It's so expensive. I don't know how families afford it.
Yeah, and 40% of the campers' families that we serve make $30,000 a year or less. So providing just one opportunity for one of their kids to go to camp is out of question, much less if they have more than one kid.
It's incredible. So tell me a little bit about the Sunshine Keeper thing. I went to the Sunshine Keeper luncheon. I guess that would have been in March. Mm-hmm. You do it outside. You do it at Zilker Lodge, so people get to see the camp and see the experience right there. But how does that work, and how did that all develop?
Yeah, thanks for coming and thanks for asking. So we have something called the Sunshine Keeper program, and that's basically all of our recurring donors. So those donors either give monthly automatically through their credit card, or they sign up to give annually for at least 5 years. So it's recurring, sustainable funding that allows us to budget, take risks, make choices, grow, etc. And that was started, I believe, around 2014 by some donors and some YMBL members. And it kind of just stayed steady, but not too big over the years until I came, and the board and the stakeholders of Austin Sunshine Camps really wanted to focus on it. So I think when I started in 2018, we were bringing in about $14,000 through that program. And this year we'll bring in more than $400,000.
That's amazing.
So being able to have, $400,000 of sustaining gifts every year, you can only imagine when you're sitting down and doing budgeting for the year, what that enables our team to do is really, really impactful and wonderful.
And I also noticed as I looked around, having done this for a while and gone to these luncheons, that the crowd is different. There's a lot more diversity in the people that are there. It's not just the Young Men's Business League group. There are community leaders and business people from all over. And I think that really speaks to the fact that maybe it's not the most hidden gem. Maybe a few more people are discovering it.
Thank you. I hope so.
So I know that Sunshine Camps just won a Ethics in Business Award, and I want to know more about that and really know about ethical leadership and how that really shows up in your daily decisions.
Yeah, that was a really awesome opportunity that's provided by an organization called Recognize Good, and they recognize businesses from all different fields every year at that luncheon. But we were recognized in the nonprofit category in 2023.
I think it was in the last year.
Okay, man, time flies. I think when we went through that process, it really focused on our counselor in training and CIT program. And this need for our community that we serve at Austin Sunshine Camps to have mentors that look like them and have been in their same shoes. And so we've gone from like nobody to 25% of our seasonal staff last year were past ASC campers, which is really huge because for us, what then we want to do is to take those folks who have succeeded through that pathway and hopefully encouraging them to join other organizations like YMBL, like the Young Women's Alliance, to go really be leaders in their community, to learn what it's like to be in philanthropy and to be giving back, and to be able to make an impact now on the kids that are coming up after you. And so I think that's really where we were able to shine in the Ethics in Business Award, is being able to put people in front of our campers that they can relate to.
Yeah, I remember going to the Sunshine Keeper luncheon last year. You had a city councilman, right, that had gone through the camp program and now is serving the Austin City Council?
Yeah, there's actually 2 council members who are past campers. Natasha Hopper-Madison and Councilmember Jose Velasquez both went to camp.
I mean, that speaks to the kind of impact that the camps are truly having. So wonderful, wonderful. One thing I'll say about Austin, as we talk to so many different business, community, and cultural leaders, is the city's booming. It's obviously people moving here, but opportunity hasn't always kept up. I always feel like sometimes it's easy to kind of get lost. How does the Sunshine Camps help bridge that gap for kids and families today? What are you doing to try to help connect those kids to their next opportunities? You mentioned a little bit of that in the last question.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I think what we do best is internal. So giving them the confidence to be able to burst out of a bubble that they may have been growing up in, which takes confidence, and it takes this ability to do something that you've never seen modeled for you, which is difficult. So I think that's where we probably do the most work. But outside of that, I'll say in this city, after growing up in Houston, which is a very, very diverse city, and Austin doesn't always feel that way, when you come to Austin Sunshine Camps and you're at an event with all of our stakeholders, it is extremely diverse. And I think I'm really proud of that, and I think that shows the kids and the families that we serve, and even the donors that are part of our community, that there is value in crossing those lines of difference, and that there's value in understanding and gaining empathy for people who are super different than you, and putting down maybe your assumptions. And, what I'm describing is creating this authentic community. And I think it shows all the stakeholders that are part of Austin Sunshine Camps that there's more to Austin than you may see on the surface, and that you are also a valuable part of that fabric that makes us really unique and special here, and hopefully gives them the courage and footing to go do whatever they want to do in this city.
I love that. So you mentioned a goal of increasing camper retention with the camps and enhancing the camp experience. So what's your vision for that evolution? Where do you see the Sunshine Camps the next 10 years?
When I first started in the nonprofit space, someone once told me that it is your obligation to be relentlessly optimistic. So for me, no matter what roadblocks or challenges are in the way, if there are 40,000 kids in this city who qualify for Austin Sunshine Camps, then we have an obligation to go try and find ways to get those kids to experience what we know is life-changing for a lot of the kids that we serve. So I want us to be able to serve more of those 40,000 kids. I want to set a precedence in the overnight camping industry that you can serve these kids, because I think a lot of people in the overnight camping industry say they want to, and maybe they offer a handful of scholarships a year, but are they really serving and meeting the population that we're serving where they're at? So I would like to teach people in the overnight camping industry how to do that successfully after having done it for 96 years successfully. So serve more kids, serve more families, and teach others how to do it so this model can be replicated outside of Austin.
You mentioned 96 years, I think, a couple times, and I'm curious. I know the story, but I think our listeners would be interested in knowing the story of how the name came about and how this whole thing started.
Yeah, so the story goes, and you fill in where I may not know, but back in 1928, there was a thought that sunshine might be the cure for tuberculosis. And so the members of the Young Men's Business League who founded Austin Sunshine Camps would go out into the community and invite kids who had or were at risk of getting TB to Zilker Park for a week for exposure to sunlight and 3 square meals a day is what all of the verbiage says. There are these photos of sunshine campers back in the 30s, before photos and after photos, with a name and a weight underneath each child, just to show how much weight they had gained over the week that they were out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are there still pictures? Do you have that in the archives?
There's still pictures, yeah. If you come into the lodge upstairs, you'll see a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not, sunshine is not the cure for TB. It's also not the cure for COVID, come to find out. But over the years, YMBL and the community kept Sunshine Camps going, and it continues to evolve to meet the needs of the current society.
You were talking a little bit more about kind of the vision of what you had. What partnerships or community connections would you ask for on this podcast, or would you ask for the public that you think will be essential for the Austin Sunshine Camp's growth in the next few years? Where do you need more connections? Where do you want to go?
Well, growth means more revenue. So, growing partnerships and the public-private space is always amazing. Being able to partner with companies where their employees can literally get involved on the ground with the organization and help us grow to achieve those goals is exciting for us. Any other organizations, whether that be school districts or other organizations who are serving the same population we're serving and are looking for ways to just enhance those kids' experiences over the summertime, is always wonderful. People who have land that they want us to build a camp on top of would be great to know.
Okay.
We're open to what serving more kids looks like. We haven't really set on one path and only that path. We're really trying to keep our eyes and ears open to all the possibilities that may be out there.
I love that. We're going to finish here with a few questions about Austin. We're going to take it, we'll circle back at the end. But let's talk about Austin. You've been here for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
If you could maintain one weird thing in Austin, what would it be and why?
The music. I would say the music. When I think about my first love connection with Austin, it was wandering the streets and coming up on some band that then became the biggest thing in the next decade, and you got to see them in some random bar in downtown. So just so many fun memories of being at shows and listening to music as you walk down the street. So I would say music. I don't know if that's weird, but let's just say
Well, I've heard you say before that you kind of have Austin Zilker limits too at the lodge, right? You can hear the festival from the lodge.
It's so true. Yeah, every year during their sound checks, the day before ACL starts, we open our windows, and the coolest one was when we got to hear Paul Simon. So
nice.
Yeah.
I think he just performed or is about to perform at the Bass Concert Hall.
Nice.
Yeah, he's on his. I don't think he was going to tour anymore, so I didn't know. Well, how many years ago was that?
Maybe 5.
Okay.
Whenever he was at ACL.
Okay, I must have missed that one. Okay, so what's going to keep you here? Obviously, the Sunshine Camps, you have the passion to be here, but if we think about your future and where Austin's gone and where it's going in the future, what is going to keep you in this city and keep you going in Austin?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I love the outdoors of Austin. And so I think being able to continue to explore all of the trails, all of the swimming, all of the outdoor activities that the city has to offer is something that would definitely keep me here forever.
What do you think Austin needs more of or less of to live up to its potential?
It needs more ways to get around.
Clearly, that's right.
Yeah, coming from Houston and learning to drive in a city like Houston, you just realize how valuable various ways of being able to travel around the city are. And here, there's not so much variety. You're pretty much stuck on one road or the other. So I think that's really important for Austin to really figure it out.
More transportation, less traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here's a question I don't think you have any idea I was going to ask you, and we'll see how you answer it. Who are the rising leaders in Austin? Who are you inspired by right now, especially in youth development or equity work?
Ooh, that's a good question. Gosh, about 20 people's faces just went across my mind, and so I feel terrible picking one out above the other. So I'm in a group right now with Leadership Austin called Leader Lab, and it's about 30 nonprofit leaders. A lot of those folks just flashed before my eyes, but there are a lot of people in this town, Adam, who have contributed their entire life toward youth development and doing really great work throughout the city, really innovative, different work. It's terrible to have to name one of them, so I'm not going to.
But I heard you bring up Leadership Austin. There's Leader Lab, so they're the ones that have organized this thing.
Yeah, and tons of different cohorts spin off from those kind of groups. There's a group of us that all run youth development and outdoor focused organizations here in Austin. So I'll just throw out props to my CEO leaders at Explore Austin and Candlelight Ranch and El Ranchito and Youth River Watch. We're all trying to use the outdoors as our canvas, if you will, to make a difference in the lives of kids. And them times many, many more people are doing great work around town.
I love that. If you could name the next era of Austin, what would you call it and why?
It's going to be something that you guys maybe can help me think of a better name. It's going to be something where it's like, it's accepting the fact that you are in a growing city that is not going to change.
Yeah.
And things are going to change because of that. But there is a way to still be awesome and weird. And there are ways to keep your roots intact, but also accepting the fact that some things are going to change because we live in a great place and more people want to come here. And I just think that both of those worlds can be okay. And I feel like there's so many parts of Austin who are fighting that, one way or the other.
I think the final question I'll have for you is really just about you being in the community and what you enjoy the most. You said you like the outdoors, you like things. If someone were going to run into you on the weekend or you're going to have a guest come from out of town, what are the under the radar things you like to do? Where do you like to go? What do you enjoy the most about the city?
Oh gosh, the food is absolutely amazing, which I love, but also I hate when I travel because, you're traveling, you think you're going to try all these amazing things. Yes. There's no restaurants there's no other city that has as good a food. So the food is amazing. I love to show off the food when people are here. I love to show off how much Austin loves the outdoors. It doesn't matter what eatery you go to or bar you go to, you're sitting outside. There's this communal feel. Mm-hmm. There's usually fun activities to do while you're out there, and it's so fun. I live on the south side of Austin, so Manchac is just turning into this new, like, old people's version of Rainy Street. And it's so fun to take people from out of town down there and just kind of bar hop and listen to different music and eat all kinds of incredible food. So,
can you name a few places? Because I'm not so familiar with this new scene down there.
No?
Old people
well,
Rainy? Is that what
you
we're
maybe
calling
have
it?
been to Moon Tower, which is one of the OGs on that road, but now there are so many. There's Armadillo Den, there's Lower 48, there's Lulu's down there.
So a lot of fun can be had down there.
So much fun, yeah.
Okay, all right. And if you're going to go somewhere outside, you have a go-to place?
I do a lot of trail running, so I'm always on the trails everywhere, and it's so wonderful. Yeah, there's I don't think most Austinites know how many good trails we have around town.
Yeah, I started this networking hike thing where a friend organizes it, and we all go out and we kind of network, and he's been showcasing all these trails. River Place and Emelong Park and Southwest Park, they're hidden everywhere.
Everywhere. It's so fun. If you don't already have All Trails app, you should get All Trails because you'll be standing somewhere and you can pull up All Trails and it'll tell you all of the trails around you. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great app. I think that's about it, Erica. You've covered a lot of ground with us today. Erica Blue, CEO of the Austin Sunshine Camps, thank you for joining the Austin Airs podcast.
Thank you so much, Adam. This has been fun.
Appreciate it.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.